Paul Kagame, my good friend Ibrahim Traore. And I say, some of these folks are operating in a slightly different environment, where their word is obeyed instantly, without question. It's a different environment. You say, this guy is not doing things. Traore is doing them. Traore wakes up, dreams them up. Following morning, he makes a pronouncement. It is law. It is policy. Action follows. And I wake up and I say stuff, they look at me and say, what is this? What is this man talking about? We need to take it through this stage and that stage and put it to tender, float the tender. It takes 2 years, then we evaluate, then there are complaints, and there's an interdict. We wait another 4 years. By that time, you have to go and account to the people, and they remove you. Those who came before me did not fail because they didn't have ideas. They did. Maybe even better ideas. They just didn't implement them. Why? Because perhaps they failed to appreciate that the structures that are in place are not properly suited to the attainment of quick action. So you need to subvert some of these rules and processes unapologetically. And I will do it. Let me tell you here and now. I will. Within the confines of the law, and I know it. If there's anything I know, it's the law. That's all I know, really. So I will, within the law. Tell me to flight a tender, take 2 years to procure some much needed service. I'm not going to waste anybody's time with that. I'm going to take the quick route, as the crow flies, straight on to action. And I'll take fire from politicians. That's what I'm always ready for. I like it. I enjoy, I relish the fire. But I will do what is good for the people. For any industry that must drive and power this economy, we're going to do it together.
Africa stands at a historic crossroads. Across the continent, young people are rising. Voices once silenced are now echoing across borders. And in the heart of this movement, one name keeps rising. Captain Ibrahim Traore, the 36-year-old leader of Burkina Faso. But this isn't just his story. This is also the story of another bold African voice, Duma Boko, a politician from Botswana who just did something most leaders wouldn't dare. He openly praised Traore. In a world where silence often protects power, Duma Boko chose truth. His words didn't just echo in parliament, they echoed across Africa, challenging leaders and inspiring millions. Today, we explore what makes Traore so powerful, why Boko's support matters, and what this moment means for Africa's future. In the calm political waters of Botswana, Duma Boko's voice has often stood out. A lawyer, academic, and opposition figure, Boko has long fought for constitutionalism and Pan-African values. But when he publicly praised Captain Traore, he crossed a line many fear to approach. In a parliamentary speech that quickly spread across the internet, Boko called Traore a leader of courage, and said Africa needs more men who are willing to say no to control and yes to liberation. Why was this such a shock? Because in many African countries, supporting a revolutionary figure can make you a target. It can cost you elections, funding, even your safety. Yet Boko chose his words carefully, not to spark division, but to awaken pride. His message wasn't just political, it was deeply Pan-African. Pan-Africanism is more than a philosophy, it's a movement of unity across borders. It says, African problems can't be solved with Western answers. They must be solved with African courage. Traore and Boko are not just politicians, they are symbols. One leads with power, the other speaks with principle. Together, They show what happens when Africa believes in itself. This is the dream of Nkrumah, of Sankara, of Lumumba, a united Africa, free from manipulation, where young people write their own destiny. But Pan-Africanism isn't just a dream of the past. It's happening now, in the streets, in the classrooms, in the speeches of leaders who dare to tell the truth. The question is, will others follow? Why are so many African presidents silent about Traore's movement? Some fear backlash from the West. Others worry about unrest in their own nations. And some have grown too comfortable with the systems that keep them in power, even if their people suffer. Silence, in times like these, is not neutral. It is complicity. When a leader like Traore fights to reclaim African dignity, every other leader is faced with a question. Will you stand for your people, or protect your privilege? Duma Boko's praise didn't just lift Traore, it exposed the silence of others. And that silence is louder than any speech. Being honest in African politics is dangerous. History shows us that truth-tellers are often removed, jailed, or killed. But they are also the ones who shape legacies. Traore is risking his life every day. Boko, too, has faced political attacks. Yet both men continue to speak, continue to act. Why? Because they understand something powerful. Africa will only rise when its leaders are willing to fall for something bigger than themselves. The cost of truth is high, but the cost of silence is higher. Traore is under 40. Boko speaks to the youth. And across the continent, over 60% of Africa's population is under 25. This is not a coincidence. This is the beginning of a generational shift. Young Africans are tired of being told to wait, tired of watching their leaders sell their futures, and tired of watching the media ignore the power of the African spirit. Traore's rise and Boko's support are signs that the youth are no longer the future. They are the present. If you are young, African, and awake, you are the revolution. Western media rarely covers this story the way it should. You'll hear about instability, coups, or threats, but not about the dignity, courage, or vision behind these movements. Why? Because a united, awakened Africa isn't just inspiring, it's threatening to the powers that depend on a divided, dependent continent. They won't show you Traore's full speeches, they won't show you Boko's words. But here, we do, because you deserve the truth. Captain Ibrahim Traore has lit a fire. Duma Boko has fanned the flames. Now, the future belongs to you. You are the builders, the dreamers, the leaders, the protectors of our land, our people, our legacy. If you're waiting for permission to rise, this is it. If you're wondering if anyone else believes in Africa, now you know. We do. Together, we will make Africa great. Not someday, but now.
So, with the ideas that you will churn out and channel to the government, which will be well thought out, informed by your experiences, we will then shape policy, develop our laws, and make the environment conducive to your doing the business that you so passionately love. There's another angle. When I broached the subject of a living wage of 4,000, one of the members of one of the business people said, we've gone beyond what you suggest. We've actually introduced a system by which our employees can also acquire some stake in the business and become part owners, shareholders in some shape or form of the business. Very interesting proposition. As a tool to manage, when they are invested in the business themselves, and they know that if they go on strike, they are affecting their own profits, as it were, or dividends, I don't think they'll be quick to strike. And so we can deploy this as a management strategy, actually, if we are not committed to the principle that at least it will manage our industrial relations. There will be no conflict. But there are other compelling reasons for the living wage, advanced by scholars and economists. They say it curbs absenteeism, that it increases productivity. When they are paid reasonably well, they are happier. They are therefore more disposed to perform optimally. That there is no decision fatigue. They apply themselves. And when productivity is raised, even the profits will increase. So there's a compelling argument for the living wage. And at this point, I simply implore and encourage that we take this route of the living wage so that our employees are happier, more productive. There's no turnover where you have now keep training. Few months the person goes. It's a huge cost to the company when you go through such cycles. So it's important for us to understand these things. And I'm here to assure you that your government, and I want you to understand this, your government, and often when I see stuff written by the civil servants, my government, no, I don't have a government. I'm part of a government that is serving you. It's your government. So you must make it the government you deserve. And you must guide, you must inform, you must always be there to engage, to direct, and to ensure that what is done is in accordance with the dictates of what the industry wants. And that's my job, really. Very simple task for me. I have the easiest job in the world, by the way. I just have to listen to people who know, understand what they are saying, and do it. Can that be difficult? No. So why do we complicate some of these things? This is how easy it is. And so I am happy to be here with you today. I trust that you will engage fruitfully, robustly in your deliberations, that you will fashion appropriate solutions for the transient problems that we continue to face as a country, as the tourism industry, that other aspects, transportation, marketing, we develop together. You point out what has to be done and how we also manage the destination management companies which are domiciled outside our jurisdiction but which trade in inventory that is sitting here and profit from it in a manner that we cannot access. We may at some point have to pass a law that says every entity wherever registered that is dealing in our inventory, the wildlife, the wilderness, wherever it is registered, is deemed to be domiciled in Botswana for purposes of tax and other considerations. We may have to go that route. I'm merely signaling. I'm not there yet. I'm throwing it to you so that you can bounce it back more refined. And then we will be able to deal with some of the challenges of the human-wildlife conflict. And the reality there is, these folks who have to coexist with the wildlife. I come from Mahalapi. There are no elephants there. There are no lions. There's no wildlife in Mahalapi. So I've not had to coexist with these animals. But others in certain other parts of the country face a different lived reality. They have to coexist with these. They can't grow crops. Their whole economic landscape is shaped by the overbearing presence of the wildlife. And so certain things that I can do in Mahalapi, they can't do in their area. But when the proceeds of tourism come, we are expected to partake of them equally. It actually is inequitable. We need to introduce a fair bit of equity. Not equality, equity. Appreciating that they are bearing a heavier risk than those of us who are somewhat detached from the wildlife. And so a system of recompense that acknowledges this lived reality of theirs and invests a portion of the proceeds of this industry into securing their lives and livelihoods is actually a requirement at this point. In fact, we have delayed, and as a result, we have treated them unfairly. We need to acknowledge these. And so we've subjected them to conditions of poverty. I know Duma Trading says poverty can be romantic, but I say poverty is a violation of human rights. Maybe romantic, Duma Trading, but it's a violation of human rights. And so if we, in our policies and practices, continue to expose our people to some of these realities, then we must acknowledge we are failing them. So I hope that it will be one of the issues you will raise and discuss and bring solutions to, so that we are able to make adequate provision, so that we mitigate the disproportionality of impact that exists in these circumstances. These are the issues that, in my humble view, we cannot sidestep, we cannot escape. We must confront them head on together. And so at this point, I am extremely happy. It gives me great pleasure to now declare your conference officially open